Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bearded Joe's Beer Reviews on a not so weekly basis anymore, but that's okay. So today we are doing something a little bit different. Today I'm going to review a beer called it's called Walnut Stout by Native American Brewing in Cherokee, North Carolina. It's hard to see on that, so I'm going to put a picture on it for you. But the reason why I'm doing this beer today from Cherokee, North Carolina, my dad, as you see in this picture, again, it's kind of hard to see in the video because part of it's blurred out due just to the video itself. He passed away a couple weeks ago, and he was him and I and my daughter and son are both Cherokees, and so we're part of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, which I'll put a map on so you'll see it here. But during the Trail of Tears, parts migrated from Cherokee, North Carolina, and it went over to a few different parts, but the part that we are from migrated to the Tahlequah, northeast Oklahoma area. If you're familiar with Tulsa, very, very kind of close to the Tulsa range. And so I'm going to review this beer. Sorry. In honor. Yeah. So, he was quite old when I was born. I'm 38. He was 63 when I was born, and lived to be 101. He lived a long life, a healthy life. Hey Elsa, that's my dog in the background. He was a World War II vet, and this is the combat infantry badge that he gave me. Again, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but yeah, he gave that to me. Oops, I can keep it up there. So anyway, so this is going to be in honor of him. We went to Cherokee, North Carolina last year, and it was awesome. I love that town. It was kind of cool just being, back, kind of where my essentially kind of roots started, or my ancestors were, and just kind of talk to them and kind of knowing the history of the Cherokees. And I learned a lot that I didn't know before. And one thing that my dad did growing up, he knew, he was very involved in the culture. So he knew a lot of like the rain dances, he could speak the language, and he knew a lot of the history as well. A lot more than I do. That's what I'm trying to learn as well. So even at his funeral, my niece's husband played, his name's Matthew, played Amazing Grace in Cherokee. That was like probably the coolest part, in my opinion, of the funeral. I love listening to, I'm a Christian, and I love listening to worship music in like other languages, just because I think that's what heaven's gonna look like. Not just, what you see, here in America. Although Cherokee, yes, that's native to America. But just overall, all different types of people, all different tribes, all different. And so I just love hearing different languages and hearing those different things. So that was a really special part. to me, for the funeral, know that my dad could speak that, or at least part of the language, was really, really special to me. So this is going to be in honor of my dad. His funeral was last week in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm lucky and thankful I made the trip out from Tampa to Tulsa. So going back to the beer, we put beer through a 4-point inspection. 1, the label. 2, the aromatics. 3, taste. And 4, just the overall enjoyment of the beer. I try not to be biased. Sometimes I am, but I really try not to be. And so this beer, again, is from Cherokee, North Carolina. It's called Native Brews. They have a whole restaurant, like a little bar and grill. It's really, really nice. And they have a whole line of beers, from stouts, lagers. I have a few other beers in my fridge that I'm waiting to try as well. This beer is coming in at 5.5 alcohol per volume. And the label is really, really cool. Kind of has that almost the Cherokee, like the I'm trying to think of the word, the seal, in a sense. It has the round circle with the feather. It has a bear, buffalo, eagle, and a wolf. My dad loved stories about wolves. He used to tell stories all the time. And then just a cool little background of trees, and it's really cool. A really cool logo. And let's try it out. Sorry, I cracked it open a little early. Now my dad, as of recent, I don't know what he was like when he was younger in the World War II days, but he wasn't a huge drinker. And so he wasn't like really against it or anything like that. But he was like, "Oh, I saw you had a beer the other day." He was like, "I didn't know you drink." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, of course." I'm not crazy, obviously, but I do obviously like beer. I have a beer channel. But we're still gonna honor my dad with this beer, even though he wasn't a drinker. So the poured really nice, has a really dark color. The head was nice for a few seconds. I kind of poured it wrong. I didn't let it develop its head too much. So that's kind of my fault on the pour. Smells really, really good. It's summer now here in Tampa. Obviously it's June. So it's getting hot for me for stouts. I don't usually drink stouts in the summer as often. But it smells really good. I smell like a chocolate. It just has that typical stout taste to it. It's not too heavy. It's really good, but it's not too heavy. And that being said, I sometimes drink really heavy, like porters, barrel-aged stouts, and so my judgment on regular stouts can be skewed a little bit. But yeah, this was really, really good. It's really good. So I'm gonna tell a quick story about my dad. Even growing up, even though he was older, 63 when I was born, and when I got older, like in middle school and stuff, he was in his 70s, and he was still throwing the ball around, threw the football around with me, like any other younger dad would. He worked till he was 90, 91, 92, I think. At OBI, Oklahoma Blood Institute. We worked there together for a little while. One of my stories one of my favorite stories. Well, I'll tell some about the kids. Excuse me. The kids would go over to his apartment when they were younger, and one of their favorite things, they would just jump on the bed. They would just jump, and that was like their thing. And they just enjoyed that so much. To go over to Granddad's house and jump on his bed. He didn't care. And like, I was like, take off your shoes. And he was like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm like, no, take off your shoes. But when I was younger, I loved the Atlanta Braves. I'm a Tampa Bay Rays fan now. But at that point, I had Braves everything. And they kind of talked about this at the funeral. I mean, like the baseball with Chipper Jones, Greg Maddux, Marquise Grissom, Fred McGriff, all those guys, like all these baseball signed autographs, posters in my room, like everything Atlanta Braves I had. And so my dad took me once to an Atlanta Braves Houston game. And we went down there just for one night to go see him from Oklahoma City. And then I forgot who was pitching that night. Maybe like John Smoltz, which was awesome. Nothing against him. I love John Smoltz. But as we were leaving to come back home, the guy at the front desk, I'll never forget. And if I get emotional, I'm sorry. The front desk said, oh, you guys are leaving. He was like, well, Greg Maddux is pitching tonight. And that was like my dude. Greg Maddux was like my favorite pitcher. Every time he pitched, I liked him. He pitched with, if you're a baseball fan, Javier Lopez was the normal catcher for the Braves. But Charlie O'Brien, if I'm remembering right, was the catcher for Greg Maddux. I don't know. They connected better, I guess. But anyways, I remember looking up at my dad. My dad's a tall guy. And I didn't say anything. He just looked at me and was like, okay, how much for another night? And we stayed another night. So I got to see Greg Maddux pitch. And so that was a really, really fun memory for me. I don't know if you can hear it. It's starting to pour down. But anyways, so I have a lot of good memories with him, and miss him. So go back to the beer. The label, I mean, again, I'm going to be biased on this just because who I am. I'm going to give this a really high rating. I'm not going to rate it, I never do, on the label itself, but it's a really, really cool label. The color of the beer, aromatics, smells fantastic. The taste is great, but it's not as strong as I typically like. So if you're not a huge stout fan, if you're not huge on like, you're so overpowering, this would be good for you. Especially for me, even now in the summer. I was saying I don't typically like stouts in the summer. This is a good summer stout, something I could drink on a consistent basis and still have that stout taste without feeling overheated or weighed down. So yeah, it was really, really good. So I'm gonna give this overall, I'm going to give it a 7. I feel like a lot of my ratings are 7s. I don't know. You're like, all your ratings are 7s. Why do I even watch this show? But yeah, it's really, really good. So, it's a good beer. So if you're in Cherokee, North Carolina, or anywhere around it, go check them out. Tell them Bearded Joe's Beer Reviews sent you. Kind of learn the history a little bit more about any really, not just Cherokee, it's about any. My wife's Choctaw, and so my kids are both Cherokee and Choctaw, both, which is really, really cool. There are not a lot of, I think at their school at one point in elementary, they were the only Native Americans here in Tampa at their school, which was kind of cool. So anyways, so go check them out. Cool place, cool atmosphere, and so cheers to my dad. And one last thing, as always, these beers are a gift to enjoy and not as an escape. So, please, please, please drink responsibly, enjoy the beer, and until next time, friends, cheers. And cheers to my dad. Love ya.